Salutations everybody, it is Matty here today, and I am here to save you 40 minutes of your life. Today, we're sitting down to talk about the state of play that just happened here on February 12th, 2025. There was a lot of expectations going into this one, some I think way higher than a state of play could really ever deliver, but I think most were in a fair place. What's going on with PlayStation in 2025? I think that this showcase failed to answer that primarily on a first-party front. I thought at the very least you get a Ghost of Yotei release date. Instead, as I predicted in our recent PlayStation analysis video, you got a Housemark reveal, and I think that was the real major highlight of this entire showcase. We have Saros coming in 2026, which is seemingly a Returnal successor. So we'll talk about that later here in this video, but otherwise, lots of updates on things you've already played or have in the ecosystem. Otherwise, a new remaster got announced, some PS Plus updates, classics updates. Some of the trailers, in fairness, did leak before this showcase. For example, the Digimon story announcement did leak ahead of the state of play. The Metal Gear Solid trailer did leak ahead of the state of play. So I do want to give them a little bit of the benefit of the doubt, but for me, walking out, I was like, yeah, kind of mid, 5 out of 10, and my favorite announcement, ironically enough, was DLC, which we'll get into in a little bit. But I feel they set the tone really well. The first thing we saw was Monster Hunter Wilds getting a spring 2025 free title update with Mitsutsune. And yeah, if you want to put modern gaming in a nutshell, no disrespect to Capcom, who's been on an unreal stretch. No disrespect to Monster Hunter Wilds, but I know this may not be the best example people want to hear. But yeah, like to announce content updates for a game to open up a showcase is the exact modern gaming tone setter I'd expect nowadays. And it's very depressing. Like, here's things for the thing you don't even have yet. I don't know, but it feels very corporate, very business. Like, they'll be excited because it's going to increase pre-orders, I guess. But nonetheless, Monster Hunter Wilds does look fantastic. That's coming out very soon, just a couple weeks, February 28th. Afterwards, though, we got to look at Shinobi. This gets a release date of August 29th, 2025. And I went, okay, settle down, Matt. You know, not the best opener, but like this game looks rad. Art style, the background art especially looks incredible. Looks way more expansive than I expected, if that's the right word. Like so many different locales. Like this might be a bigger game than I think many of us anticipated, but it's coming August 29th this year. So I know my co-host Lord Cognito is going to be bouncing off the walls over this one, but I thought it looks really cool and I'm excited to play it as well. We got a network test date for Sonic Racing Crossworlds. I was surprised to not see a release date for this one, but look, man, I used to pray for times like these. Before I even started to enjoy Sonic video games, the only type of Sonic game I really did enjoy was Sonic Riders. I loved those games growing up. And so to see this kind of successor of the Sega racing games combined with Sonic Riders, where you saw the hoverboards, but you saw monster trucks, and also you saw this really cool like switching of the tracks. Of course, there was a lot of Mario Kart spirit here, but I do think the Sega racing games have always been a little underrated as kind of a competitor to what Mario Kart was doing. So while no doubt Mario Kart 9 will take over the industry this year and Nintendo's wallet in turn, because if you look at the sales for Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, it says everything you need to know. But I think this game looks pretty good, and I'm excited for a different style Sonic spin-off for the, it seems to be, annual Sonic release this year. Unfortunately, this leak, because this would have been a major surprise, but Digimon Story is back. We got Cyber Sleuth, and I want to say 2015, and then a little bit after that, we got another Digimon Story game. I have both of them on my Switch. My best friend adores the first game, put over 100 hours into it. Wasn't a big fan of the second one, though, but I have yet to play these. But these are turn-based Digimon RPGs, and to see this one come back, and it's about like an apocalypse and sort of shifting time periods, kind of reminds me a little bit of Final Fantasy 13 too, which I adore. But Digimon was like one of my oversights as a kid growing up. Like I was, if you will, a Pokemon kid and a Battle Network kid, so I never got fully into Digimon. So I do want to play these games. Digimon's had an interesting cycle of releases. Like for example, there was Digimon Survive recently, which was this mixture of like a horror visual novel and like strategy gameplay, and it looks really cool. Unfortunately, I have yet to fully get around to it, but that game looked awesome. And so to see them continuing this series and they have a new entry coming sometime this year was really exciting. So now I got a good reason to boot up the other two Digimon Story games. I'll just put this in as a side note. If anyone has any recommendations or pro tips on Digimon Story, leave them down below. I'll be reading. After this, we got an update for Lost Soul Aside. This was, I think, a big announcement. We have a release date of May 30th, 2025. I think it's just so impressive that this game got up off the ground based on one developer. As someone who is a Final Fantasy 15 apologist, I'm sorry, I have like all of my bad Final Fantasy takes in a single video here. But as a Final Fantasy 15 apologist, this game just gives me a lot of that game's energy. I think the combat looks solid. The locales look really cool. I think the exploration, the sort of flying around and stuff, seems to be very on rails, so I'll stay reserved on that aspect of the game. But hey, coming way sooner than I expected, and very excited to get my hands on this one and see what Sony plucked out here, because it looks like a real gem. After this, we got some updates on the third-party front. Like a Dragon Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii is getting a demo, as well as a beat-em-up DLC for Dave the Diver, which is coming April this year. Splitgate 2 is getting an alpha February 27th, and WWE 2K25 is getting this mode called The Island, which is full of WWE landmarks and quests and customization, and that game's coming out March 14th. Want to pause there for a second? This is going to go horribly. Mark my words. I'm sorry. I know that's very negative of me to say. This is going to go horribly. This looks like the blacktop mode in NBA 2K, and we know how heavily monetized this is. I think this is going to be a complete cash cow, but no doubt they are going to reach in this game first. I would be so surprised if they took a conservative approach to this island mode. I'm happy to be wrong, but it's 2K. I'm not holding my breath. Borderlands 4 is getting a exclusive state of play later this spring, but they did give us a release date, September 23rd, all platforms, and I thought this trailer was pretty good. I mean, it really is going to come down to the characters and the story, which, based on the reveal trailer of Borderlands 4, I did not feel encouraged by the character front, but the story front seemed more grim, seemed more serious. So I am very excited about that. The lead writer of Borderlands 4 has talked a lot about how there was like too much toilet humor in Borderlands 3, and I can agree with that, although I think it is kind of part of the series identity. Just maybe went a little overboard with Borderlands 3. So I'm interested in Borderlands 4, which is, I guess, a step in the right direction after not liking like the last 3 Borderlands games that have come out in the movie. I did sit through that. It was just so bad. So bad. Anyway, we also got another trailer for Split Fiction. This game looks amazing. It's still arriving on March 6th. It did recently go gold. We saw the next game from Supermassive. It's called Directive 8020. This is releasing October 2nd. And honestly, when I first saw this, I was thinking to myself, wow, as someone who just saw Alien Romulus, this feels eerily similar. But it seems like there is a multi-dimensional element to this game that does give it that twist. But no doubt, the Alien vibes in this are real. I adore Alien. I haven't played a Supermassive game since Until Dawn, so I'll keep my eyes open on this one as a big Alien fan, but otherwise didn't scream super original to me. Speaking of not super exciting horror stuff, we did see Five Nights at Freddy's Secret of the Mimic. This is coming out June 13th, 2025, and I can't offer any really cohesive, objective thoughts on Five Nights at Freddy. Like, it's this whole fad that I just don't get and never had interest in understanding. So I am just going to remain here in my ignorant little bubble and say, if y'all like it, cool. Me, I got no opinion on it. All right, moving along here. This game did look cool. The Midnight Walk. Everything you see in this game is made with clay, and they define this game as a cozy horror game. It's arriving May 8th of this year. I will be all over this one. I just think it looks super unique from a visual front, which has really been something I've been seeking in video games as they push towards hyper-realism. I do like games like I just talked about with our preview of South of Midnight. Like, I really appreciate what that game is doing with stop motion and sort of its animation style, reminding me of Coraline or Nightmare Before Christmas. And this game just looks different. It also seems tense. There's this almost first-person shooting element, and they did show that it's going to be for PSVR 2. I don't have PSVR 2, but still very interesting to know that that could be an added immersive element to that game for those who do own it. But I thought it looked really cool, so I'll definitely be checking it out. Konami revealed Darwin's Paradox, where you play as this kind of like squid character that can blend into every environment, and sort of the layout of it. Maybe it's because I just saw like factories with cheeky names, but it kind of reminded me of an Oddworld game, and it made me miss Oddworld in general. But it just kind of had that vibe to it where it was a little cheeky, but also a little serious. And so I thought this looked interesting. There's something maybe about PlayStation and octopuses that just, you know, gets the brain going. Because I think of Octodad back in like 2014. You remember that game? That was such a crazy time, but I had so much fun with that game when it came out. But nonetheless, that just scratched a weird part of my brain, but I did think it looked pretty decent. It's coming out sometime this year. Afterwards, we got a really interesting announcement. It's available today. It's a Warriors game, but it's a roguelike. It's called Warriors Abyss, and no doubt Koei Tecmo kind of saw the hype going on with Hades, and a lot of companies have kind of tried to cash in on that Hades hype train. I mean, we just saw what happened with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Splintered Fate. That was a top 5 game for me last year, and that really opened my eyes to like, hey, I still do really love this roguelike genre, so I'll be trying this out because I think it did look interesting, and I am a sucker for Warriors games, and I have been procrastinating starting up the latest Dynasty Warriors games, which I just think looks amazing. My last review for the next, I'd say, month or so is done, so I'm kind of laying out what I want to play next, and Warriors is on that list. But we also got Onimusha 2, which this was revealed at the Capcom showcase that there was a remaster on the way. Now we have a release date. It's May 23rd of this year. We also got a new trailer for Onimusha Way of the Sword, and I think this game looks rad. But my expectations were in a place of more fast-paced action, but I was happy to be wrong with this game because I love the kind of environmental interaction. For example, there was a point where he deflected the attack of an enemy, and that spun this enemy off balance, and he wiped a ton of people out. He threw a blanket on top of an enemy's face, and they were blinded, swinging around, knocking other enemies down. That level of creativity is really cool, and I do love the whole environmental kill idea when it comes to video games. It reminds me a little bit of Sleeping Dogs, and we've been seeing a little bit of Sleeping Dogs craze picking up thanks to that movie push from Simu Liu, but I just thought this game looked really interesting, like a concept we've kind of seen before, but the gameplay freedom and creativity I think is going to be unreal with this title. Now, unfortunately for Konami, this trailer leak, this was a big one. Metal Gear Solid 3 Remake is coming out August 28th this year. We also have some sort of Ape Escape inclusion as well, but I thought, you know, this game continues to look excellent. I really like Metal Gear Solid 3. 2 is my personal favorite, but I'm really excited to reconnect with what I think many think is the best in the entire series. But that looks excellent, and we got to see like all of the bosses and get a closer look at that story, and no doubt those MGS3 diehards were very happy with this trailer. Hell Is Us also got a trailer. This is coming out September 4th of this year, and I thought this game looked pretty good, kind of Souls-like inspired, but also had like sci-fi elements, and just there was a lot going on here visually. It was crazy, but I thought this for a Souls-like style game looked very different, but step aside, because the real Souls-like decided to show up and upend the entire presentation, and that was Ji-Won Choi and Round 8 and NeoWiz stepping out finally. I've been so patient. Finally, we get the DLC for Lies of P. It is called Overture. It's coming summer this year, and whatever day it's coming out, I'm busy that day. I don't care. This game is incredible because it's not only an amazing Souls-like, and there were sick weapons in this. Like, this dude had like claws at one point, but also the story. The story is great, and I want to see where the story goes here. So I cannot wait for this DLC. I think it's going to be excellent. I have no doubt in my mind. And whenever they finally do Eliza P2, I will be all over that. Next, we got Dreams of Another. This is a game that tries to twist the idea of first-person shooters a bit on its head. So instead of shooting enemies, you're kind of like shooting your environment, and it's forming in front of you. Seems like an interesting idea. I'm curious to see how it evolves. After this, we get Days Gone Remastered, so it's getting some new content with it, a permadeath mode, a speedrun mode, there's a survival arcade mode with hordes. It's a $10 upgrade if you already own it. That's coming out April 25th, 2025. And look, I was not a huge fan of Days Gone when I had reviewed it, but also like the review builds for the game were kind of broken. But I think even if it did work, it didn't have the charm or a really great story or compelling gameplay elements, frankly. But I know a lot of people love this, so I'm sure people are thrilled about this. And I do think the game was at least good enough to get a sequel compared to whatever Bend Studio was sent to work on next with some sort of live service title. So it'll be cool for PlayStation to take a look at the numbers here and maybe weep a bit at like, oh, we should have just done a sequel to this, because a lot of people seem to want this remaster. But I'm going to check this out and kind of do one of those check yourself moments. Like, was I wrong about Days Gone Let's give it a look. Stellar Blade is getting DLC. It's Nikkei DLC. So there's a new boss fight. There's new outfits being added, kind of similar to what they did with Nier. This is June 2025, so you could look forward to that. PS Plus is adding Jedi Survivor into the mix alongside Top Spin 2K25 and the first tape of Lost Records, Bloom, and Rage. Out of all those titles there, Jedi Survivor. Easily. That game story still sticks with me. That game story and characters my friends and I still talk about. I know there's a lot of low optimism on Star Wars, but that story was awesome. The gameplay is awesome. The worlds you can explore, awesome. Everything about it, awesome. Provided now that it works for most people. There's also games that are going to be launching with Game Catalog. There's Blueprints, which is very much puzzle inspired, which I thought looked interesting. This is coming out spring 2025, but the one I was really excited about was Abiotic Factor. That seems to be getting its 1.0 launch this year, summer 2025. It'll be launching day one into Game Catalog, and I am pretty excited about that one because I know there were some Half-Life comparisons. My friends wanted to check it out. For me, I'm very still reluctant on buying into any early access game because you never know how long it's going to be till it hits 1.0. So I'm excited to know that's arriving this year, and I'll definitely be checking this out when it arrives on the Game Catalog. There are some classics being added to the service as well, the first 3 Armored Core games alongside Patapon 3. Then we saw Tides of Annihilation, which is just in development for PlayStation 5, and there was not much to take away from in the terms of like a release window, but I thought the game looked solid, kind of gave me like Nier vibes in a way, Stellar Blade vibes in a way. Like, it just looked very stylistic, and I also loved how the main character looked. So it looked pretty far along, where maybe it won't be too long till we get some sort of date, but they just want to make sure they announce that for us. Metal Eden is coming May 6th this year. This is a sci-fi first-person shooter. Honestly, at first I thought it was going to be Marathon. I was like, oh, here we go. We're finally going to see what Bungie's working on next. But this game looked cool. I got to say, this game just did look cool, particularly the voice acting. That was really doing it for me. I thought that was awesome. If this game is what I think it might be, could be interesting. This is coming out summer 2025 and kind of gives me GTA vibes in a way. I thought that the acting and line delivery just felt corny, for a lack of better words, but otherwise looked solid enough. It just didn't have a premise that I was grabbing onto. It just kind of looked generic, for lack of better terms. And then the last game we saw was Saros, which is coming from Housemark. This is arriving in 2026. No gameplay, but at least a title reveal, a concept reveal. And so they're planning on, according to the studio director, they're looking to build upon the gameplay first ideals at Housemark using the systems from Returnal. So that means it's going to be like bullet hell, third person shooting. And I am very keen to learn more about it. In fact, Returnal is one of the few big PS5 exclusives this generation I've missed, which is a shame because I do really like prior Housemark games, and that game in general in Returnal was a big leap for them. I think it was because there was something with like saves that was broken. People were losing progress with Returnal, so it turned me off a little bit. But yeah, this game I'm at least interested in. So that was everything at the state of play. I don't know, maybe you disagree, and that's fine, but I just felt kind of whelmed. I was like, yeah, a little 5 out of 10, 6 out of 10 showcase. I don't know. But yeah, maybe it's because we're coming off the high of the Xbox Developer Direct where I felt like they delivered surprises and just quality games and things for me to be excited for within that ecosystem, where PlayStation stepped up to try and do the same thing and kind of gave me either far out kind of announcements or games that just looked very generic or uninteresting. And there were some gems in the middle. But for example, ones that I was kind of surprised by, like, oh, Digimon Story. You know what? I kind of want to know when that's coming out so I can plan my other playthroughs. Like, didn't even have a release date. Sonic Racing, for me as a Sonic fan, no release date. It is what it is. But nonetheless, those are my thoughts. Hopefully I saved you some time. Let me know what you thought of State of Play down below, and I'll catch you real soon with our next video. Stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.